Well, welcome to Distance Learning for our Saviors and First Lutheran. So, this is for our second year group. So, let's talk a little bit about how we're going to do this going forward. So, we are not sure exactly how many requirements we're going to have for everything. You will get credit for what you've done already. But I'm guessing that we are going to reduce some of them. But remember, you will get credit for what you have done already. So, as for the rest of it, we are not going to be doing any live meetings. We are not going to do any Zooms. We are going to just do these videos, and you'll be on your honor on whether or not you watch them. I do expect you to watch them, and I do expect you to ask questions to me directly, either by email, text, or by phone, and I'll be glad to talk to you about it. We will probably be talking about it in our first couple of meetings when we resume in-person meetings. And so you'll have that opportunity. Now, I'm doing this because I talked to other parents, and the hybrid and distance learning is making it very difficult, I think, for them and for you. And so I thought adding another Zoom onto your guys' schedule really wasn't really going to help you guys at all. So I want this to be simple. This is not supposed to be school. This is supposed to be faith development. And so because of that, I want to make this easier. And I know that some of you might have more difficulty learning this way. And so if that's true, please let me know what I can do differently to help you, okay? So I thought we'd start out by reading Psalm 8 because we're going to talk about the Creed today. O Lord, our sovereign, how majestic is your name of all the earth. You have set your glory before the heavens, out of the mouths of babes and infants. You have founded a bulwark because of your foes, to silence the enemy and avenger. When I look at your heavens of the work of your fingers, what moon and the stars you have established. What are the human beings that you are mindful of them, mortals that you take care of them? And yet you have made them a little lower than God, and crowned them with glory and honor. You've given them dominion over the works of your hands, and you have put all things under their feet, all sheep and oxen, and also beasts of the field, the birds of the air and the fish of the sea, whatever passes along the paths of the seas. O Lord, our sovereign, how majestic is your name in all the earth. And so I want to focus on that last one. Our sovereign, how majestic is your name of all the earth. So we aren't doing these worksheets anymore. So one of the questions I would have asked was, what is sovereign? So sovereign means supreme authority or having supreme power. And we typically don't talk like that in a democracy. And it was pretty common in the eras of kings and queens. But what I think this is important is that God is in charge of all. God is in charge of even our legislatures, our courts, our presidents, and our governors. And God created all this because God wanted to. And so now we're going to talk about the Creed a little bit. The Creed was created to acknowledge the belief of the early church. Now, if you think that we have disagreement now, there was a lot more in the first 5 centuries of Christianity. So the Creed is kind of a summary of all the things that were disagreed upon that finally came to agreement. Now, I know that not every church in America or in the world reads the Creed, but I have yet to find very many. There's a handful, but I would say that the majority of churches follow the Creed whether they recite it or not. And so I thought we would read this with Luther's explanation. And I think the explanation is important because it tells us how to look at these words. And so we're going to read from this. And so if you don't have one, I'm going to try to keep some in my bag. And so if you want one and you don't have one, please come to church and I will try to give it to you. So Apostles' Creed, first article on creation. I believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. What is this? I believe that God created me together with all that exists. God has given me and still preserves my body and soul, eyes, ears, and all limbs and senses, reason and mental faculties. In addition, God daily and abundantly provides shoes and clothing, food and drink, house and farm, spouse and children, fields, livestock, and all property, along with the necessities and nourishment for this body and life. God protects me against all danger and shields me and preserves me from all evil. And all this is done out of pure fatherly and divine goodness and mercy, without any merit or worthiness of mine at all. So that's the shortest part of the creed. So this is the creation article according to Luther. And it's important because we see that there's something bigger than yourself. That's something we call God. So a little sidebar here is we call God the Father for the first article. And it's not really because God necessarily has a gender. I think if we assign God a gender, then we are putting God in a box. We are saying that God is only this. And if we humans do that, then we are really not following the first commandment. But here's a little bit of why we do it this way. It's because God revealed God's self in 3 different ways. And so we're talking about the Creator here. And when Jesus referred to the Creator, he always referred to the Creator as Father. So we think of a provider or a parent or a creator when we think of this. So you need to think in terms of the best way for the relationship with you. Because this is all about a relationship between you and God. So this is about a relationship between you and God the Father. So God the Father and you. And so whichever way is the best works for you, that's the one that you use. But we're going to use Father because that's what Jesus did. So remember, Luther continues this idea that God is the provider, God provides for everything, God helps us and protects us just as a parent would. And so I had to recite this several times to become a minister. And the first time I saw this list, I didn't have everything on the list. We were trying to have a child, and we didn't have Zoe yet. And so what ended up happening was every time I had to recite it, I would skip children. And that was because I didn't have any children. And, I don't think that this is really supposed to be that you are going to get everything on that list. I don't have any fields either. So what this is not meant to say that the world is currently perfect. It was perfect. It's not necessarily perfect now. It's more about what you have, not what you should have. What you have came from God. So I think there's 2 really important things here to talk about in the creed beyond this. So we have God abundantly providing. And this means that God isn't done. God isn't done creating. God is still active. So God is not a watchmaker. God didn't make a watch and wind it up and let it go. God is more like a programmer. God is more like a programmer of a video game. So God makes the video game, and then God watches all the players play the video game and constantly tweaks it and constantly makes new features. And contrary to popular belief, there have been very big video games, even in the modern era, written by one person. So that doesn't necessarily disprove that only one person could have done all this. And the second sets up the why, I think. That this has nothing to do with anything we did. And this has nothing to do with how we are worthy. So think about it like this. Think about it like your favorite your favorite person in your family that gives you gifts at Christmas time. For Zoe, it's both her grandparents, both sets of grandparents. And they give her presents that Kendra and I might not think that she's worthy of or that she deserves. But her grandparents, both my parents and Kendra's parents, both gave her stuff that just because. And I think there might be times in your life that you might have gotten that too. And that's kind of what this is. So I suppose that's enough for the Creed today. We want to keep these short. So remember, we're going to go over these videos in person when we return. But if you need to ask questions, feel free to do so. And we'll do this as a group hopefully in January. But otherwise, feel free to call me, email me, text me, or talk to me in church. And hope to see you guys on Sunday.